Hey everybody, this is Dan with Pain Free You. Today I have the pleasure of introducing Ashley from New Jersey. And Ashley's got a story to tell, and she wants to share it with the hopes that somebody else with similar situations and similar symptoms can benefit by her journey and her success. So, welcome, Ashley. Thanks for volunteering to spread the word here. So, thank you.
Thank you. And, I already said this to Dan before we were recording, but I'm going to say it again because, there might be somebody out there watching that's where I was a year ago that's wondering, like, can this help me too? And I cannot overstate how much my life has changed, how much better everything, my inner world, my outer world is. And, and that's the pain recovery aside. How much good has come out of learning about the mind body approach. And everything started for me when I found Dan's videos, when I stumbled on his videos last Christmas. And I saw one of your book reviews that said that you were the Mr. Rogers of the mind body world. And I loved that description because I felt like, when I was really going through it, it was like my Dan video every morning with my coffee. And you have a very calming presence and reminding us to take the deep breaths, like just those little things. It really is like very calming. And you really are the Mr. Rogers of the mind body world.
I've also been called the Bob Ross of the body world, the painter
That's
with the
really
big,
funny.
yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate
We've
that one.
got a
I'm an art
happy little
teacher, so I really like
cloud,
that.
and yeah,
Yes.
funny.
Yeah, appreciate that one. So, thank you to Dan for everything that you do and everybody else in this community really just doing this work. It's
Yeah,
life changing and it's really exciting to me to see that it's, the word's starting to get out more and more. Um,
absolutely. So why
so
don't you take us on a journey? Tell us what when things started, if there was anything going on beforehand or during, and any connection of the dots between, what was
yeah.
happening in life and the onset of symptoms, and perhaps a little
Mhm.
bit of that medical merry-go-round journey that you took. When you found out about the mind-body stuff, you mentioned you stumbled on my videos, but you must have had some kind of inkling that there was a thing called mind-body and, TMS, Dr.
Mhm.
Sarno's term. And so just
Yeah.
kind of bring us along and tell us what you experienced.
Okay. Okay. So, um, the beginning. I'll start with when the sensations or the symptoms kind of started, and then it's really interesting that the things that you just said because it's like kind of now looking back and then knowing what I know now. Now I can connect the dots a lot. At the time I couldn't, of course, but so my symptoms began in June of 2024. I woke up one morning, um, had some sensations that felt like I thought maybe I had a UTI and thought, well, that's kind of weird because, I haven't had one of those in probably decades, but I thought, okay, I guess that's what's going on. And I had a lot of stuff going on with my kids at the time. One of my children had just recently gotten hurt pretty bad, and was in the hospital, needed stitches. I had like to take him to that doctor that week to get stitches taken out. And I was like, I don't really have time for like my own medical problems this week. So kind of did what like a lot of moms do and was like, we'll see what happens. Like kind of just was like, I'll give it a few days. And if it's still like bothering me, I'll, go to see my midwife. And so I gave it a couple days and it actually did go away. So I thought, great, awesome. And then probably like 2 weeks later, woke up one morning, same kind of sensations, thought, okay, I guess that wasn't gone, or maybe it started to go away and it came back again, thinking that I had a UTI. So I went ahead and made an appointment with my IC midwives for like my gynecological care and made an appointment. By the time that I got the appointment, I guess it was like a week later. So at this point, probably like 3 weeks out from when I originally had got the symptoms. Um, so I went to see my midwife. They, did like all the typical tests. Um, Turned out I did not have a UTI. And so they're like, well, let's run tests for like this thing and that thing, like, all the infections, stuff like that. Let's do an examination. And meanwhile, here's a steroid cream because maybe it's just some irritation because it was July by then. I exercise a lot. My daughter was taking swim lessons, so I was getting in the pool a lot. So she was kind of like had a hunch maybe it was just some irritation and gave me this steroid cream. So then like a day later, that all the test results come back. Every single test for, everything under the sun is negative, right? And so I'm sure this sounds familiar, but I'm like, okay, well, that's good news and bad news, because you're kind of like, when you feel like something's wrong, you kind of want to know like there's a reason for it, right?
Correct.
So, she's like, I think, just use that steroid cream. I think it's just some, irritation. You'll be fine in a few days. So I used this steroid cream, and the pain started getting worse. Started like was something that was kind of intermittent to begin with, and then started getting worse, started getting more often. I exercise a lot, so I was still exercising, but then it was like after I would exercise, I would feel a lot of this like burning sensation. So then I started thinking, well, maybe I guess I need to take a little break from exercising. Maybe I'm overdoing it in this heat. And so then it got really, really bad. I was like I felt like as soon as I stopped exercising, everything got worse. And this steroid cream that I was using was like causing a really bad burning sensation. So I called the midwife. She's like, okay, stop using the steroid cream. Why don't you come again? We'll run the test again. Sometimes we can get like false negatives. So
Hmm.
I go back that week, they do everything again, throw in a couple extra tests for, again, it's like everything you can possibly think of is I was tested for. Everything comes back negative again. So then she says to me on the phone when she calls me with the test results, everything's negative. So, I really don't know what else to say. Like, maybe it's time, maybe you need to see a specialist. They might need to do a biopsy to make sure there's nothing wrong at a cellular level. And I'm like, I was absolutely freaking out because I don't do good with medical stuff to begin with. So I'm an art teacher. If a child comes up to me with a wiggly tooth, I'm like, oh, I feel like I'm going to pass out. So I have 3 children. I gave birth naturally. I can do okay with like natural, things that are supposed to happen in life, but not like I don't want to see medical instruments, like any of that kind of stuff sends me into like a spiral. So I'm
Yeah.
like picturing this biopsy, she's telling me to go see that I might need to go see a vulvar specialist. Okay. And so I'm like imagining this over and over again in my mind. And then I'm thinking, okay, well, I guess I have cancer, because she said we have to make sure there's nothing wrong at a cellular
Mm.
level. Right. So very quickly in 1 week went from like irritation to, okay, well, we don't know what's wrong. So maybe you have cancer. Um, and that is when the pain just got off the charts.
Yeah.
It went to like a suddenly debilitating pain.
Yeah.
Um, I couldn't sleep. I couldn't even stand without pain. And of course, now looking back,
It
I
makes
know,
sense. Yeah.
yes. Now it was like as soon as I started watching your videos, I was like, oh my gosh, it was literally like the day after I like thought that I must have cancer, that like the pain just became, yes, yeah, like, so I mean, and it was horrible. So like I think people look at me now sometimes that I'm like, hey, I used to have debilitating pain a year ago, and it almost seems like unbelievable, but I'm like, I really couldn't do anything. I couldn't like stand and cook for my family. um
Right.
I couldn't sit. I really couldn't do anything, and even at night I could barely sleep. And I made this appointment with the specialist, and it was like a month out. So so this during this month that I'm waiting to see this specialist, I'm like in horrible pain. I'm freaking out. Like I'm having like panic attacks. I
Uh-huh.
have 3 kids. I'm thinking like, okay, I have cancer. I'm going to die. I'm going to leave my kids. So I literally was having like panic attacks in the middle of the night, not sleeping. Um, and I had 2 friends of mine who had passed away from ovarian cancer. So of course I'm like, so then my mind starts going there, and I'm starting to like, ovarian cancer is really hard to detect. So I'm starting to say, I'm like, oh, I look bloated. That's a symptom of ovarian cancer. And so that's really where my brain was for several weeks. Just panic stricken, in horrible pain. Really couldn't do anything. I love summertime. My birthday's in summer. My 40th birthday was rolling around. And so then I was like, felt this added like, oh, now my summer is ruined. And I love summertime with my kids. And so it just was like a spiral, just, I just spiraled bad.
Panic.
Um,
Sure.
yeah. So then the appointment with the specialist rolls around in August. The specialist takes one look at me, as she does an examination and she's like, well, this is not cancer. It's not even like remotely what cancer looks like. So I'm like, phew, okay. Big relief. But I know what's wrong with you. It's hormonal. And I'm like thinking, well, okay, I guess so. If she says that, okay, great. Somebody has an answer for me, right? So I leave there with a prescription for some hormonal cream. Very expensive, by the way, because
Of
like
course.
many people with chronic pain end up, spending a lot of money on treatments that don't work. So I leave, with a prescription for some estrogen cream that has to be compounded. I have to pay from a pharmacy, like for, a compounding pharmacy out of my pocket every like 2 weeks. Um,
Wow.
Long story short, it doesn't do anything for me. Okay. And then I just keep being told, well, like you have to give it a little bit longer. I keep going back to see the specialist. Give it a little bit longer. Okay, well, let's mix some testosterone in with it and try that. So let's say at this point, 6 weeks later, it's still not doing anything for me. It's September. I start losing my hair. Um, I start losing my hair like bad, and and so then I'm distraught because I'm losing my hair. I love my hair. I have curly hair. It's my thing. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is adding insult to injury. And like, so then she says, we make an appointment with a dermatologist. I go see a dermatologist. They, do all the stuff they do to check out your hair. You have telogen effluvium. It's
I know that.
it's telogen effluvium. It's what happens when your body is so stressed, like something very stressful or like a medical trauma happens, and you lose your hair.
Okay.
So if that's not a mind body syndrome, what is?
Yeah. So basically, this fancy word just means you were stressed out and your hair fell out.
I was so, yeah, severely stressed that my hair started coming out. And like, so what's the solution? Okay, don't stress out. So so I like, I leave there pretty much like, oh, the doctor says I'm going to lose half my hair and it's going to take 18 months to come back.
Oh,
And I'm like, oh my gosh.
why would they predict
So
that?
so
It just doesn't
so
help.
yeah, so at this point I'm like, yeah, I'm like, I can't drive. I'm driving with a cushion. I can't sit up like comfortably. I can't stand comfortably. I can't wear jeans. I can't really walk. I mean, I couldn't even like walk, like around the store for a few minutes without like having pain. I'm losing my hair. Yeah, I was in a really bad place in the fall in September. And then, so, kind of just like continue on. Then at some point they're like, well, this isn't working. Like maybe you have this other thing, even though none of the tests are coming up for it. Here's another medication that's compounded. Try this. So I try another medication. That medication causes me so much pain. It was like so horrible. I couldn't even take it for like a couple of days. I was like, I can't take this. I cannot use this medication because it's causing me so much pain. It's even worse than it was before. So it was like, well, then we'll go back to the other one that wasn't working. It was just the craziest thing. I felt like nobody could help me. I was spending hundreds and hundreds of dollars on, these medications. I forgot to mention that they also told me that I had hypertonic pelvic, whatever they call it, muscles. Just means
Hypertonic
like
pelvic
pelvic.
floor.
Yes, it just means like that your pelvic muscles are tense, which they kind of said, oh, it's probably from, having 3 kids. Even though it had never bothered me before. But so then they sent me to PT. So I'm also doing PT for this, pelvic floor muscles. And then I start feeling that. I start feeling that pain, which I had not even felt until they told me you have pelvic floor tension, and then that can cause this burning sensation and all this. So I'm also doing PT. And around October, I decide, okay, this is this is my life now. I guess I'm just going to have to make the best of it. And I decide I'm going to live my life with this pain. So I'm kind of like, without knowing it, starting to like implement a little bit of this stuff just because I'm like, I'm just going to live my life and I'm just going to take the pain along with me. So I started doing things with the pain. I went to New Orleans with my two best friends to see Taylor Swift last year. I brought my cushion on the airplane because I couldn't sit, without pain. So I went and did that, and I had a great time, but I did have, pain the whole time. And so I started doing stuff like that. I started exercising again, like 5 minutes a day. And just trying to start like living my life again. It wasn't really, doing anything for the pain, but I was like, I was just so depressed, sitting inside all the time, laying on the couch, not being able to enjoy life with my kids. And I just always had the last day that I ever felt good. I had this one day in the beginning of July when I took my kids for a hike. And that's one thing I like to do with my kids. They love to be outside. I love to hike and I love to be active. And that was the last day I had felt normal. And so I always had that day in my mind, like, I have to be able to hike with my kids again. Like they would ask me, can we go back to the Blueberry Hill, which is this really cool place we like to go hiking, and like ask me to do things. And it was, so hard when I couldn't physically do things. And so I always had that in my mind, like, I've got to be able to get back to that place. I have to take my kids hiking again. Mm-hmm. And then, so these things started like slowly, there were some things I was kind of figuring out on my own. But then I did start seeing some people on Instagram, like Rachel, who is the pelvic pain coach who was on your show.
Okay.
So I found her on Instagram. Oh, is it glitching?
Yeah, that's
okay.
I
could the screen was frozen.
I could hear you, but the screen just froze for a second. I think it might
okay.
be on my end.
So somewhere on Instagram, I stumbled upon Rachel, is what I was, who is the pelvic. I think her name on there is the pelvic pain coach, and she's done a story with you.
Okay.
And so I found her on there, and then I found a couple similar people, and I kind of like, kind of planted the seed that there's something out there, but I couldn't really understand it. I'm like, what is this? Mm-hmm. Like, this sounds nice, but like, I also was in all these, following all these pages that were really about the pain. Mm-hmm. I was in some Facebook, the bad neighborhoods. I was in some Facebook groups that just were hopeless. All these people suffering, and I was like, oh my gosh, there's all of these people suffering and they never get better. I guess this is just my life now, right? And then at some point, I remember at some point, there is a surgery that some women have who have, so one of my many diagnoses was vulvodynia, specifically vestibulodynia. And so there is a surgery that some women have that who can never get relief from any like medications or never, get better. They have something called a vestibulodynia. Okay. So they remove the tissue from the specific area of the vulva. And so I thought, okay, well, that's probably where I'm headed. I'm probably going to have this surgery that insurance doesn't cover because they consider it cosmetic. There's only like 2 doctors in the country that do it. Wow. That's kind of where I thought I was headed. And then one day I saw a video of somebody who had that done, and she said that she still had pain and she still had to go to PT. And I was like, what? How is that possible? How could you still have pain if the place where you have the pain is removed from your body? So it was like, I kind of started getting these wheels turning. And probably sort of around that time was when I saw Rachel, the pelvic pain coach, posted, I don't know if she was maybe sharing that your book was coming out or something. She shared something in her stories, like, here's Dan Buglio, and she basically, credited you for like being a big part of her recovery. And I was like, okay, well, maybe this will help me understand a little bit about what she does. So, and it happened to be Christmas time. Like, I think it was right after Christmas. And I had just cooked a huge meal like on Christmas Day. So I was having like a lot of pain from standing all day. So I'm just going to lay on the couch and watch these videos and see what this is about. And so I like fell down a rabbit hole watching all your videos, just like taking this all in. And I was like, and everything was just clicking, clicking. I was like, this makes so much sense. This makes so much sense. It, all this is why, people get surgery and they still don't feel better. And then, I was actually watching Rachel's success story on your page.
Hmm.
And she was talking about something like that connection that she had with, when her symptoms had started. And I went, in fact, it's funny because you can actually go to that story and you can see my comment from like whatever, December or January, because I literally paused the video and I walked over to my calendar because remember I mentioned my child had gotten hurt, right?
Yeah.
So my child had gotten hurt in the pelvic region,
Oh, wow.
pretty badly. It was very scary. Um, my biggest fear as a mom, of course, is something happening to one of my kids. Also, I should say a few months before that, my husband and my children were in a bad car accident and they were okay, thank God. But my nerves were
Okay.
just like shot at this time period.
Multiple traumas,
So
traumas.
yeah, so I counted the days from when my child had gotten hurt in the pelvic region, you know, and when my symptoms started. And it was less than 2 weeks, right? Then I counted the days from when I had to take them to the doctor to get the stitches removed from their pelvic region. And like I always say, if my kids are cold, I feel cold. If I think my kids are hungry, I feel hungry. Like, I feel so like connected to them as a mother that like it pains me to see them in pain.
Of course.
So then it was like less than 1 week between when I had, my
Hmm.
kids stitches taken out and my pelvic pain started. And I was like, oh my God, like it was like, I was like, this is insane. Like, could this possibly, this is just like, it was so crazy to me. And I was like, oh my gosh. And so then I made a list in a notebook. Of, here's all the proof
Hmm.
that what I'm experiencing is not, for some, it's one of the year. And then on top of that, like it was, you know, that my kids like being in danger, like, 2 times back to back. Um, and, and then on that list, I had things like my hair fell out. My hair fell out because of the stress my body was feeling. So if my hair fell out because of the stress my body was feeling, what's to stop my body from turning on, symptoms like pelvic pain symptoms, right?
Hmm.
Um, and I had on my list that, so I'm a teacher and I teach very young kids. And whenever there's a lice outbreak, I feel itchy and I've never had lice, but I could swear that I have lice when I find out one of my students has lice. I feel
Oh,
itchy,
of course.
and so it's just like making myself proof of like how your brain can create symptoms to protect yourself.
Sure.
Um, and I had on there that, people get this surgery and they still have pain. And, I made this long list of proof of, that this is a real thing, the mind body syndrome. And I decided I'm going to get better. And and I kind of never looked back. I had definitely setbacks. But I would say within the first week, and this went on the list, within the first week, I had time where I had no pain.
Wow.
Whereas before, the pain was just constant. And then it was like just from watching your videos and literally doing nothing but watching the videos, just having the knowledge, I started to, the pain started to go away. Um,
That's
I
awesome.
left all of the Facebook groups. I unfollowed all the Instagram pages. I stopped talking about my pain. I told my friends not to ask me about it. I told my husband not to ask me about it. Um, and and then I started doing like the graded exposures. So
Hmm.
I started working out, before I was working out like 5 minutes and avoiding every kind of movement I thought would trigger my pelvic pain.
Right.
So so I started doing those movements that would previously trigger my pelvic pain. And then when I was doing those movements, I would visualize, this is a kind of funny, I know some of the people that you interview they give their pain a name, something silly. And I think that was kind of what gave me the idea. So I had like visualized for myself when I would do these movements that would previously cause pain. this Jonathan Van Ness, who is a celebrity. I don't know if you know who he is, but I would visualize him as like a fairy godmother, sprinkling glitter all over me and like just smiling because he has the best smile. And so this was my visualization
Oh,
when I did my exercises. So I was not just exercising; I was exercising like with a smile. And the other thing is, you said in one of your videos to smile like a crazy person,
yeah.
and I would like hear you saying that, and you like the funniest, smile in your video when you said that. Yeah. So I would literally see that, like Dan says, smile like a crazy person. And I would smile like a crazy person doing literally every single thing like that previously was one of my fears.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's everything. That's driving, exercising. I remember the day I first wore jeans again. I was like, okay, I'm just gonna wear these jeans for a little bit. I'm just gonna wear them to go to Trader Joe's. and I'm putting the jeans on, visualizing like this is gonna go really well. I'm visualizing me walking to the grocery store, like comfortable, smiling. So I didn't just expose myself to like the triggers. I did it like while trying to do things that would convey safety to my brain, like smiling. When I was driving was a big one for me. When I was driving, I would play my favorite music and just sing at the top of my lungs, like happy music, inspiring music. And the same thing when I worked out. I would play like really fun music. I would do a lot of cardio. A lot of times my daughter, who's 4, would dance with me and we would have the best time. We would just like spin around dancing. If something popped up, I kept going through it. So I think that was like kind of a difference, that when people ask me about that, it's like I didn't just do the things like and grimace and bear it.
Yeah.
I did the things with like, while trying to convey safety to my brain by smiling, by having fun, listening to music, dancing, through literally everything. Like this is a crazy one, but having to go pee, and a lot of people, a lot of women who have pelvic pain
Mhm.
will probably relate to this, was like that was a scary thing for me for a long time. So I was sitting there like, okay, for a little while when I had to go to the bathroom, I was sitting there smiling like a crazy person. I don't have to do that now, ladies.
That's awesome.
But like, yeah. So I mean, you get scared of everything. It's like, they give you a list. Another thing that I think caused the pain to become chronic was when they gave me that first diagnosis. I was reading the paperwork and it said, this is a chronic condition. And I was like, oh my God, this is chronic. I thought I was going to get better.
Yeah.
And so, and here's a list of things to avoid. Laundry softener, scented detergents, only buy organic menstrual products, only wear white cotton underwear, all this stuff. Like, you're like, what? Like, okay, I guess I've been doing it wrong all these years. Well, spoiler alert, I don't need to do any of that. Any of that. None of that made a difference. It just made me afraid of everything, you know? And it's like the list of things that I had to overcome is a crazy list of things. Even like when I was doing much better by June, I was still scared of the pool because I was like, I still had this little tiny thought like, well, maybe it was the pool. Maybe it was the chlorine in the pool. I'm not scared of the pool anymore.
Well, that's good.
It wasn't the pool.
Nope. So,
Um,
where did you kind of finish up? When did you feel like I got this handled? Was
so
there a time
I
frame when you said, well, the symptoms are gone, but I'm still afraid? Or was there a time when you said, I'm no longer afraid, I still have some symptoms, and then the symptoms went? Like, what was your journey as far as fear and symptoms, and how did they correlate, or did one lead the way? What was your experience?
um so I would say within like the first 6 weeks, I was like 60% better.
Wow.
Um, and so I was having it was like I was having, maybe hours without pain, and then it was like maybe only at the end of the day I would have some pain, or like I would be fine all day, but then I have a long drive, and maybe after a long drive I would have some pain. Um, and then what happened is I kind of stayed at that like 60 or 70% for a couple months. And I just kept keeping on. And I also started therapy like last winter, because I was kind of like, well, maybe there's like some things that I need to kind of fully process, um to maybe that'll help me with that last like 30%. So, I did that too, and that helped me also. And then I would say by the springtime, then it went from having like hours without pain to like now I have days without pain. Then it was weeks without pain. And I never doubted, I never had any doubt, but I definitely had frustration sometimes, when the pain would return, but I would just, then that was like, okay, let me watch a Dan video, or let me like, actually somebody I connected with was Emily, who did a success story with you, and she has a page now. The Pain Explained TMS, I believe, is her Instagram name.
Okay.
And I connected with her on Instagram. She's very positive, and she also, similar to you, she really shares a lot of information, and she's a pain coach. But like I just chatted with her, and really a lot of her posts resonated with me. So a lot of times the things that she would share in her stories were really like my vibe of like, I've always been a really determined person, and so actually when this pain first started, I felt like, oh my God, I've been able to like overcome everything in my life, and this is going to be the one thing that I can't do. Like I can't do anything about this. And so when I found out I could, I was like, oh, I'm going to do something about this. So I actually have a post from Instagram. Like I remember thinking I'm going to make this post from in the beginning of January, and I was like, I am going to get better, mark my words, I'm going to get better, because I wanted to have that like piece of like evidence to be like, look back, look
I
back
declared,
on.
yeah, I declared it and I got it done.
Yes, yeah. So I would have like I definitely had setbacks along the way. And I did start to notice certain things that triggered it. Um, Getting like stressed about money, and it was definitely like a thing like that would make my whole body tense up when I would start to stress about money or think about like my student loans. And so that actually, I worked through some of that stuff in therapy that really helped me not have an emotional response to things like that anymore. And so yeah, I'm not like suddenly rich now, but I don't have that emotional reaction to it that I used to. And I don't get like I used to get that. I would feel that tension. That's when I would start to feel the pelvic tension, the muscle tension and stuff. And so I noticed that, and then, was able to like work through that. And then the other one was stressing about and worrying about my kids.
Well, yeah,
That was like the final one. And that's a really hard one as a mom. You're never going to stop worrying about your kids.
and you're not
um,
supposed to.
right. So, that was like the final one. That was hard to like I would, yeah, feel that in my whole body. And just like you feel something in your whole body and you feel neck tension, or like you feel it in your stomach. Um, like for me, I'll feel it and I'll get pelvic pain, but I don't anymore. That was like, I worked through that with my therapist too. We did something called brain spotting, which is,
Mhm.
um, I would say similar to, like, it's actually a lot of the things that we would do are very similar to like the pain reprocessing therapies, that I see, them do with like that pain reprocessing center. So it really helped me specifically with like the money thing, and then the stress, like how I would, internalize the worry about my kids. So yeah, it kind of like got to it was just like very gradual that last, 30%, I would say. But I never let myself like go down like that hole again of where I was in the summer of like, this is my life now, I'm never going to get better. Even when I had the pain flares, I always just kept him. And this is why I'm 100% recovered, because now if I have any kind of sensation, if anything ever pops up again, I'll know that it's going to pass. Um, and so, and no matter what it is. So this summer, my daughter was diagnosed with celiac disease, and that was really hard, like very hard for a few weeks. I started feeling like some stomach sensations and stuff like that, and I just knew, okay, this is I knew what that was, and and it went away. And so I would say by June I was like 100% recovered. So I started everything in like around Christmas time. By June I did not have any symptoms anymore, whatsoever. And you know, if every now and then, like you know, if I start to feel anything creeping up, I stay calm and I know it's going to pass. And I kind of, you know, kind of with everything. And actually, this work has really helped me, you know, with my daughter having celiac disease, because I've learned that a lot of people have a lot of fear around all food. And so, you know, I'm really teaching my daughter not to be scared of food because I don't want her to have any more, you know, to get any kind of chronic sensations of her own. So,
Yeah.
so and this is how and like it's like this work has just helped, it's helped with every area of my life.
Yeah.
um like one of my favorite quotes is from Nicole Sachs. She said in one of her like it was maybe in a podcast, I think I saw her say it, and she said something like, you know, when you do this work, it's not just I had pain and I don't have pain, it's I had pain, I don't have pain, and I have 100 other things that I only ever wished for. And that's how I feel. You know, going through that experience, I forgot to mention that in the middle of all this, I started my own business.
Oh, wow.
Um, yeah, in February. So I was pretty like new to this work, and I was like, because I was kind of getting, I was like getting close. So I'm an art teacher. So I started a business called Ashley's Art Room. And in the summer, like right when all the pain was really bad, it was like just before that started, I was, you know, thinking about doing this. And I was like, I felt like it was ripped away from me, you know? I felt like this pain is taking my dream away from me.
Mhm.
So then once I learned about this work, I was like, oh no, it's not. I'm going to start the business and I'm going to do, you know, I was not 100% better, but I was like, I'm going to do it anyway. And that was kind of like my approach with everything. I'm going to do it. So yeah, so I got better. Like, you know, I think in the beginning of this, and also when I was doing PT, and even the specialist said, okay, stress will make pain worse. Like, it's like they know that, but it just was like a footnote.
Yeah.
So, like, try to do some yoga and some body scans. And I was like, oh my God, stress is going to make it worse. So instead, I was like stressing about
Yeah.
stressing. Like,
Yeah.
and I was like, how am I going to not stress? I have 3 kids. You know, you can't. So it was like actually like doing the opposite because but what I've learned instead is like you are going to have stress, and that doesn't mean that you need to, you know, be in chronic pain because of it. Like, and you know, like life is lifey, life be lifing all the time.
Yeah.
And now I really like have learned how to live life and enjoy life with all that. Like, yeah, that's part of life, and that doesn't mean life's not good. Life is good and it's hard. Life is good and it has challenges. Life is good and it's stressful. And
But
so yeah, I
but
really,
you don't have to hurt.
yeah,
And that's what you've
yeah,
taught yourself.
absolutely, yeah, yeah. So it's yeah, I've literally, I mean, I have overcome every single. It was a very long list of fear. Every fear I have overcome, and like then some. So
Right.
I run now, I exercise, you know, I can stand and cook for 3 hours in the kitchen. I wear jeans. I'm wearing jeans right now. I can wear a bodysuit, ladies. Uh, and the cushion, you know, it's so funny. My daughter found the cushion the other day. I had completely forgot about the cushion. The cushion I used to have to bring like to the movies. I had to keep it in the car to drive. And it was so funny because I forgot it like existed. And I was like cleaning out a closet later, and my daughter found it. I'm like, oh my God, the cushion. And yeah, that's just like every little thing. And it was so many like little wins, you know, along the way. And now like sometimes, you know, I look back and I'm like, I can't believe, you know, how much life has changed in a year. Um,
Awesome.
I mean, there was a point where I was like looking up disability online. I thought I was never going to be able to work again,
Wow.
you know? So yeah. And yeah, now I have my own business. And you know, I do all the things with my kids. I, in April on my son's birthday, went back to Blueberry Hill, the place where I
Hi.
wanted to go hiking. That was like, I'm actually almost like gonna tear up now thinking about it because that was like, you know, of course I wanted the pain to go away, and I didn't want, who does, nobody wants to be in pain. I wanted the pain to go away. But like the big why for me was always like, I'm going to get better for my kids
Mhm.
and be the mom that I want to be.
Mhm.
And I'm going to take them back to Blueberry Hill and we're going to hike. And this trail has sand dunes that you climb. And it was, and my son wanted to go on his birthday. So it was like such a cool day that day. I was just like, I did it. I made it. Here we are. And I actually remember I messaged Emily that day. Emily, the Pain Explained TMS, and I was like, because I think I had told her like that, this was, and she was like very, celebrating my win with me. So that was like a really big deal. That was like a milestone,
Right.
being able to do that, and be able
Awesome.
to be like active with my kids again. Um, and my son is a soccer player and he's a really fast runner. And I was like, do you want to like go running with me? Like just to be able to do all that stuff again. I don't ever take for granted like the fact that I can move my body however, I want
Love it.
now.
That is so
Yeah.
cool.
Oh, and then I forgot to mention my hair is growing back. One day I looked in
Did
the
you
mirror
lose half
and
of it like they predicted or
I
no?
lost I don't know, but I lost a lot of hair, and and it was upsetting, but then there was like probably some point I remember like seeing all these like 3-inch pieces of hair sticking out of my head, and I was like, oh wait a minute, how much does hair grow a month? Google. Oh, half an inch. Okay, this is a 3-month-old hair growing out of my so I remember seeing like the day I realized like that my hair was growing back, and I cried like just happy tears. My hair is growing back, and this is also proof that your body can heal,
Yep.
right? Because like my hair is growing back, and it was very like symbolic, and yeah, it's just, it was one of, another piece of the puzzle. I always looked at everything like puzzle pieces, because a lot of times people will ask me like, well, what did you do? And I'm like, well, I didn't do one thing. I did like, a million little things, but I think the biggest thing was just living life again, and and also just not like doubting and ruminating
Right.
anytime I had a setback.
Yeah.
um
The one thing that I wrote down that I think is important, and I will likely do a video about it, is when you started to resume activity, you'd start to visualize yourself, and then as you would engage in that activity, you did it in a positive state.
yeah.
Sound like a
Yes.
crazy person.
Yes.
I am doing this thing that I've been afraid of doing that's caused pain in the past, but I am smiling while doing it. And the brain
Mhm.
kind of short circuits a little bit like, wait, what? She's okay. She's smiling. And so I think that
Yes.
resuming activity in a positive state was probably a bigger issue or reason for success than you may have realized. I think that was pretty huge. So
Yeah.
I like that you emphasized that because some people are like, yeah, I just started doing the things. But if you're doing the
Yes.
things terrified with the frown on your face, it's not going to work as well as what you did, which was really come about it.
Right. Or bracing yourself, which is like,
Here I go.
yeah, or bracing yourself for the pain, which is like what I would have been doing. Yeah, which is what which is what I would have been doing before I knew like here's how to create safety in your brain. And I literally, like I said, like would hear you being like, smile like a crazy person. And that's what I did. Like, I mean, like, yeah, my husband can attest, like me and my daughter, like I'd be doing my cardio, just like I looked like I was doing like a, an 80s workout or something, because I was smiling, blasting music, like fun music. And yeah, just, I mean, I really was having a good time, but like, I do remember the first time one day I forgot my cushion. And this was like when I was just kind of doing like little baby steps. I
Mhm.
forgot my cushion in the car. I had to drive to Pennsylvania. And I was like, oh my God, this is going to be a long ride without this cushion. So I blasted the music, sang literally at the top of my lungs, like my favorite songs, not sad music. There and back, and I was fine. I was fine. It was like, so then, I started taking small trips without the cushion, and then I just, and I slowly, but yeah, I definitely think that made a huge difference.
Yeah, that's awesome. Any other tips or tricks that you
Um,
want to
I'm
pass
gonna look at
along?
my notes real quick to see if I
Sure.
forgot anything.
But what I'll observe is just that your mindset. once you kind of really figured out what was going on, your mindset was, I'm determined to do this. You had a why, which is, I'm going to do this for my kids. And you kind of like, you never quit and you just kind of implemented over and over and over. And you had ups and downs
Yeah.
and everything, but your implementation of the mindset, which is, I'm going to do this, I'm going to beat this, and that's where you really made all the progress. The term bracing is also,
Yeah. And that, yeah, that, oh, sorry, I just lost my train of thought because something popped in my head that I was going to say. And then, I just realized I forgot to talk about two things that I do want to mention because
Mhm.
I had like a whole bunch of medications, right? I had like so many medications. I mean, they at some point gave me gabapentin, like all this stuff. And so I had all these medications and I had PT also. So I forgot to mention that as soon as I started this work, I stopped going to PT. I loved my physical therapist, by the way. No offense to her, but I was like, it's not helping. I'm not getting any better since I started doing the PT. I reached out to the pelvic pain coach. I think that's Rachel's name, Rachel, who did the interview with you. And I said, because she's actually a physical therapist, I said, can I ask you a question? Can pelvic pain be a normal abnormality or pelvic tension? That's what I said. Because, like, can pelvic tension be a normal abnormality? Just like how, like, maybe one day my neck feels tense, my shoulders feel tense.
Mhm.
It doesn't mean I have like chronic neck and back pain or shoulder pain.
Correct.
And she said, yeah, it can be. And that was like, okay, great. It can.
So my view on the tension is that tension is the brain's protection mechanism. So if you have
Yeah.
pelvic pain, the brain is automatically going to create tension there in a way to protect you. I had tension in my entire
Mm-hmm.
torso. With back pain, I walked like a robot. The tension wasn't the problem. And as much as I tried to loosen up and fix the tension with
Right.
stretching, and it never helped,
Yes. Yeah.
which is why the
Yes. And
pelvic
then the crazy thing that,
PT, yeah, to alleviate the tension doesn't seem to work. I don't
mhm.
know anybody who goes, yeah, it was definitely the PT to get rid of that hypertonic pelvic floor tension. Nobody ever says that.
Yeah.
You treat the brain,
Yeah.
the
And
tension
it was that
eventually
was the
goes
other thing.
away. Yeah, tension's not
Yeah,
the
it was
problem.
expensive. It was time consuming. I had to buy like a wand and do all these like exercises. And then it was like, okay, well, you got to be relaxed when you do the exercises. So I'm like yelling at my kids, I'm trying to relax. Can everybody, you know? So it was like, so
Oh,
like, it was kind of like when they told me to not stress or it would make the pain worse, you know? So, yeah, I literally, I stopped going. I never went again after like Christmas time.
that's
And I'm
awesome.
like, well, I'm getting better and I'm not going. So I don't think I need it.
Correct.
You know, I had seen another specialist. I'd gone to Philly at some point. Oh, in the fall, before I found this work, they had given me a new medication that's supposed to, they threw out all the hormone ideas. They were like, this is nerve pain. Use this medicine, another compounded medicine that cost a fortune. That medicine wasn't really helping me. But I was so afraid to stop using it because there was still a little part of me when I very first started that went, well, maybe the medicine's helping a little bit.
Sure.
um, so what I did once I got a little further into the work doing this approach is what I did was like I'm going to use it every other day. And then I'm going to use it a couple times. I slowly kind of tapered myself off the medicine so that
Mhm.
I felt like I would have gone into a little bit of a panic mentally if I just cold turkeyed the medicine because I knew that I still thought maybe this medicine's helping. So
Yeah,
it
and
kind of like eventually,
go ahead. I was
what?
going to say, with any medication, you want to make sure you taper according to plan.
Yeah.
You don't ever want to
So
just go cold turkey without consulting the prescribing doctor.
yeah. So, yeah, then it kind of got to the point where I was like, oh wait, I haven't used the medicine in like a week. And I'm doing fine. So yeah, eventually so I, tapered myself off. I stopped doing PT completely. I tapered off of the medicines. And yeah, so that was part of it too, was that was part of the of doing all this too, was like all of the, things that were being prescribed to me pretty much. I didn't need any of that stuff. Um
They weren't.
and it's crazy now. Like I have this drawer full of like creams and ointments and pills and stuff. And I'm like, it's so wild to me now to look at it, like that I had, all this stuff and none of it was helping me. And it was all, within my power. And this summer I had to go to the doctors and they were like, all the stuff's popping up on the screen. Like, is this still your, like my medication list was like a mile long. And I'm like, delete, delete, delete. And it's like, asks you why you're deleting this. And I'm like, don't need, don't need, don't need. And then like, here's your diagnoses. I had like a whole bunch of those. I'm like, delete, delete, delete. It's asking me. And it was such a like kind of cool moment to,
Yeah,
yeah, none of that is me, like that none of that's accurate. I don't, none of that applies to me anymore. So that was like a cool thing that happened this summer.
that's very cool.
Hey.
So your life
And I
is,
feel just like my friends will say like I feel like that I look happy, like I look happier, brighter, like I feel it, like I feel, like a zest for life,
Mhm.
has returned to me. And I feel very like I feel fearless, or like if I have fear, I just do it anyway.
Yeah.
Like everything with my business, I'm like, I feel nervous about doing this thing or like going out on this limb. I do it anyway because I'm kind of like, I've been through literal hell. Like nothing could be like, I can't even like emphasize enough how horrible it was. I think sometimes people see me now and like they just can't even like fathom that like a year ago, I was in so much pain, but it was literal hell. It was absolutely horrible. And you can't just walk up to people like, I can't just go to my son's soccer game and be like, oh gosh, I'm having like horrible pelvic pain. Like it's just not like
Don't talk about it.
it's not. Yeah, so it was like also that, my friends like knew about it, my family knew about it, but it wasn't something that I felt like I could talk about. So there was that aspect of it. And but now I kind of talk to anybody that has an ear about it because I know there's other people out there suffering, with all kinds of chronic sensations, and like this is amazing stuff, and I just want everyone to know about it. So that's why I'm here,
That's
because
great.
it's possible.
You're going to help so many people. You really
And like I thought to myself, if it's possible for other people, it's possible for me. And
are.
and so now that would be my message. It was possible for me, it's possible, for you.
Yeah,
And I think like you said, the biggest things are don't give up, um and that mindset, not to like ruminate, not to get yourself out of the victim mindset. I think those things are huge.
yeah, because being
And
in,
life is awesome on the other side.
I often used to say that. I said there is
Like
life after chronic pain, and it's a great one.
it's like the world is my oyster now. So
That's very cool. So you did a great job. I love the way you took us through this journey. I think you're doing amazing. A
thank
lot of
you.
people are going to benefit by this, which is awesome. And so, unless you've got anything else, I guess we can wrap this up.
Yeah, I think that's it. Again, like thank you to you and to everybody. I was really inspired was it last week that conference was
Mhm.
in Boulder? Was it in Colorado?
Yeah.
Just seeing like all of the, doctors, practitioners and coaches and everybody there and seeing like little pictures from the slideshows and stuff. And I still like pulled some like little like nuggets from the information I was seeing. And it was really cool to see that this community is awesome, and and they're doing. I love that they're doing the work of spreading the word, and it can help so many people.
Yeah, there's a lot of great people involved, and you're a testament to the fact that it's not woo-woo, it's literal science. It's how the system and the brain and nervous system all
I
functions.
think that helped me a lot too, because I think when I very first found some of this stuff on Instagram, I was kind of like, oh, I don't know, this sounds a little weird. Is this like, yeah, like you said, is this woo woo? And then like, so understanding
Um,
that it's brain science, it's neurology, there are studies, understanding how the brain works. And actually, I had read a book, Atomic Habits, before my pain had started. And so a lot of the stuff they talk about in there is actually kind of similar, because it's about like, training the brain. So some of it I had like a little bit of knowledge about already just from reading that book and understanding how like habits are built in the brain, and so the pain kind of is like a habit that your brain gets stuck into.
Hmm.
So understanding the science, and I think that's something I always bring up to people when I talk about this, is I'm like, it's neuroscience. It's like it's the cutting edge in brain science, but at the same time, Dr. Sarno started this work in what, the 70s. So,
Sure.
it's not, it's not that new, but it's, there's still studies being done. And yeah, so I think that's awesome. And I'm sure one day we're going to look back and be like, hey, remember when people thought that was weird and it wasn't science?
Sure.
It's real and it works.
It's
And
because it's how the
I'm
system
so glad I
functions.
found you last Christmas. It was like my Christmas miracle.
So thrilled to be there for you and be part of the journey. So I'll thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you.
You're going to inspire a ton of people, and
My pleasure. I hope it helps,
it will.
yeah, I hope it helps somebody out there.
It definitely will. So
Thanks so much.
thank you
Thanks for
again,
giving me the chance
Ashley.
to share
I
my story.
appreciate you, and give a wave to the camera, and I appreciate you. Thanks again. All right, so.
Bye.